This is a demonstration of a glitch that I'm going to call energy smuggling. On this boat we have batteries, which have been drained by this pack that is constantly firing, and then this single little gearbox. There is nothing on this boat that draws power. That's why it's not a fortress. If, however, I place a fuel engine, well, first of all, let's first remove the gearbox here and place a fuel engine. Nothing happens because we need to actually tell it that it's able to charge the battery. And we can see our pack starts firing because now we actually have battery power. And our RPMs are at 100. But here's the weird part. If I put my crank here, this crank is drawing 170, is producing 170 power. And this engine here can produce 179. And I'm sure this will eventually, we're at 174, I'm sure it'll eventually get to 179. However, its RPMs are only 11%. Its RPMs are only 11% because this can produce 179, but 170 of it is coming from the gearbox. It only needs to run at 11% to make up the difference. And if I go to here, you can see that 19 plus 176 is 195. The fuel engine is consuming the power produced by the gearbox in order to create energy for the battery. And this is even weirder, is that the engine doesn't even really need to be able to work. That is not what I was expecting. If I go back to fuel engines and then just make an absolute brick of an engine. What am I doing? And make an absolute brick of an engine. This thing is happily... Okay, well, hold on a sec. The reason why it overheated is because we're not producing enough steam power. So let's go to prefabs because... Let's go to prefabs, and I believe the tandem series... The tandem series does not have... yeah, sure, why not? The tandem series does not have a... what is it called? A medium shaft generator. Oh, I need to let this thing cool down. Okay, hold on a sec. Now, all of this power is being laundered through this, which doesn't even work. We need 384 material per minute in order to run this engine. But all of this power is coming from here. 408 and 3000. And if you look at the energy down here, you can see that it gets just about to 3500 before it fires. And this is firing once a second. This thing doesn't even need to work. It is ice cold. Temperature 0. And yet, if I turn it off, it stops working. So it's not free energy, because that energy is coming from here. If I turn this thing all the way down to 0, you can see that now this is not producing any more gearbox power. If I crank this back up to 1, we are now producing 3,400. Yeah. It's not energy for free, but it is energy being converted at 100% efficiency with none of the extra drag losses from using this medium shaft generator, and the rate converted is a function of this, the density of this, which can be absurd because you don't have to care about cooling or about fuel. Again, look, it requires 284, actually producing 50 because it's a boat. I lost my train of thought. This is not producing free energy. It's just remarkably efficient. If you only need a little bit extra, if you only need a little bit of energy, this pack here only needs, well, I can just kind of make this thing I can make this thing even sillier. However, the second problem, this is now exceeding the ability of the steam engine, which means that it is actually starting to produce power, which is why its temperature has gone up. This has to be smaller than this, which goes in with me saying that there's no free power. This does not produce power for free, or energy for free. But you can make it incredibly dense, because you could make a very silly little, 4 injectors per cylinder, 5 injectors per cylinder even. And as long as your steam engine is big enough, it'll never overheat. And then when it does overheat, it's screwed forever because it will never cool down again. But whatevs, Stop that. So, yeah, that's why I'm calling this energy smuggling. You are taking energy from steam. You're taking power from steam and smuggling it through a fuel engine that's not really running. In order to produce battery power. I found this by accident. While wondering why were my props slowing down, I very specifically made my ship direct drive with pistons in order to avoid competing with the fuel engines that were powering the pack. But yeah, that's the bug.